What's up, y'all? This is Cover 3. I'm Bud Elliott, and welcome to the SEC Championship pregame watch party. Big matchup today. We've got Roquan Smith, Ravens linebacker, Georgia legend here to preview the game with us, and it's sponsored by Modelo, the mark of a fighter. Roquan, welcome to the show, man.
Absolutely. Glad to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me.
All right, so first question we got to hit you with, obviously you're busy in the NFL. Ravens are the current #1 seed in the AFC. Congrats on that so far. How much Georgia do you get to watch during your busy NFL season, and how much ball do you want to talk today with us?
Honestly, man, I'm all for it. I love the Dogs. I tend to watch them every week, even if I don't even watch the full game, because most of the time we're traveling on Saturdays. But if it's a home game, I'm more than likely tuned in at the TV and talking smack amongst my guys.
Speaking of talking smack amongst your guys, because there are a couple other Alabama players on that defense with you. I know Marlon Humphrey in the secondary went to Alabama. Do you guys, it's friendly smack, but are there some friendly wagers going on about this weekend's game? Is somebody going to have to wear something stupid if they lose?
It's definitely some friendly wagers, but not wearing anything. I'm sure he knows. He knows Bama's a little he knows they're not it this year. He knows more so the Dogs. And then my guy, Eddie Jackson as well, who I played with up in Chicago. He's been talking a little smack, but I think they both know, how dangerous the Dogs are.
What was your recruitment process like? How did you end up at Georgia?
Honestly, man, I committed to UCLA on signing day. It's crazy how time flies. And then I ended up flipping over to Georgia, and that was probably the best possible decision I'd ever could make. Because growing up, it was my dream to truly go to Georgia. It was just, a young kid trying to experience something new in a sense. But I came back to my senses real quick.
To follow on that, Roquan, I remember covering your recruitment. You were a guy who was pretty adamant you were not going to sign a letter of intent and lock yourself in, which turned out to be really smart given some of the changes that happened coaching staff-wise at UCLA pretty shortly thereafter. Where did you get that idea from?
Honestly, it was me and my high school head coach, and we was just really thinking what could I do to possibly, not be bound to this college as as a lot of players are once they sign a letter of intent, regardless if coaches leave and whatnot. And so he was basically like financial aid papers and basically that. And I felt, I was a good enough player to where as a school would be willing to, wait and figure it out with myself. And, it all worked out in the end. And I'm just grateful I did it that way. I'm sure more guys are kind of doing it that way now, but that's what really the transfer portal is kind of like that, because you can go there and then you can easily just hop in the transfer portal. So something similar to that in a sense.
So, Roquan, I got to play for Mark Richt at Florida State. He was my offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, somebody I really liked a lot. What was the difference? What did Kirby Smart bring to Athens that Mark Richt was missing?
Honestly, man, I have a great deal of respect for Coach Richt. It's part of his one of his last recruiting class. So, and just the way he go about things as a man, have a great deal of respect. But Kirby's a fiery guy for sure. Not knocking Rick at all, because I think they're both amazing in their own right. But I think Kirby, he just demands the best out of you week in and week out, day in and day out, and he's not going to allow you to sell yourself short. And when you have somebody, reminding you, tapping you on your shoulder every single day of how much potential you have and how short this opportunity can be, and to take advantage of it, I think it's amazing just to have a leader like Kirby. And it's every single day. It's not changing based on the weather, circumstances, or whatever the case may be. So I definitely respect that about him.
Yes. Roquan, I know you picked Georgia over UCLA. I'm trying to think back. Was Bama hard on you? Because Kirby was the DC at Bama back then during that recruitment.
Honestly, a funny story. I used to give him and Coach Schumann a lot of crap about it, but they thought I was too small over at Bama. I think Saban, all those guys thought I was too small. So that was definitely the thing. And I gave Kirby and Schumann all them crap when I was at Georgia. I'm like, yeah, I'm too small, though.
so that was the last class when they were still you got to be Dante Hightower size or not taking you? Because after that, they'll take some small guys now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think now and looking at the class. But yeah, I remember that class, that signing class, man, they had linebacker. The guys they was getting, it was Adonis Thomas, 6'4", 230. One of these guys out of Memphis, he was 6'4", 240, 6'2", 240. So it was guys like that, thumpers, got huge guys. But, the game is evolving and, they eventually learn that.
Yeah, it's funny. You didn't look too small when you were flying sideline to sideline, making 140 tackles for Kirby, did you?
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, though, it's funny or it's strange when you look at the way the program has shifted since your time there? Because when you were first there in Kirby's, you came under Richt, you were there for Kirby's first 2 seasons. Like, the defense was very good, but if you looked at the team, like, there were 3 NFL running backs on the offense with Chubb, Michelle, DeAndre Swift. But we have seen now in recent years, since you've left, like, it has completely shifted, whereas like every single player on that defense is going to be an NFL first or second round pick. And I mentioned you had 140 tackles in 2018 or 2017, your senior year. How many tackles do you have if you're playing behind Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis?
Honestly, man, it may be actually slight smaller because those guys are eating up, getting tackles as well. So they're, killing offensive linemen, and then, they're making plays in the backfield. But I would have loved, to play behind those guys. First round D lineman, man, it takes a lot. And definitely, the offensive line going to have to double them before they come up to the linebacker. So that's a linebacker's dream in that sense. But, I had a great group of guys in front of me as well when I was there. But, like, those guys are definitely some special talents.
What do you think when you see some of the money these guys are making on the NIL market?
It's insane, but I'm happy for the guys. Colleges, they've been, making a crap ton of money for years and years and years. So, I'm happy that each and every guy, because I think of it from the perspective of like, hey, not every single guy is going to make it to the NFL. And when you look at it from that perspective, some of the guys that are in college, really good college players, and could take advantage of their name and funds and also give them a head start in life, whether that's, maybe they may make 100,000, a couple 100,000 or whatever the case may be, and that can give them a head start in life for whatever career they may choose, not being that it's in the league. So I love it from that aspect.
What do you think of the transfer portal? The way guys, I mean, there's a lot of movement. We've seen guys playing at 3 different schools in their career. Same attitude on that? Like, hey, it's a good thing that guys are able to move around?
I'm happy that the guys are able to. It's very similar to head coaches. It's like a coach can, have this job and then up and leave. So why can't players do the same thing? I don't agree with it. Just like, if it's like I think it's great for most of the guys, and like being able to have an opportunity to go from one school, maybe if they're not playing or maybe if they've graduated and want to play somewhere else. So I love it from that standpoint. But everyone's situation is different, so I think it all matters depending on the individual.
You see a pretty mobile quarterback in practice every day, I would say. Just as Georgia's about to see Jalen Milroe, what advice would you have to Georgia's defense? I mean, obviously you don't get to thud up Lamar in practice, I would assume, but how different is it when you actually play a guy who, all right, a lot of these guys can run if they're open, but like that can actually beat you even if you're on him. All right.
Yeah,
we're back.
There we go.
Sorry about that. But no, man, playing against like a guy like Lamar Jackson, day in, day out, in practice, a guy that can like Jalen Milroe, don't get me wrong, he's a great talent, but he's no Lamar Jackson.
All right. So I think it's interesting to discuss while we work to get Roquan back, like how the Bama staff has evolved their process this year with Jalen Milroe. Like early on, they were not calling a lot of the quarterback run stuff, or they were calling it with more of like a read element. And some quarterbacks prefer not to do the read stuff. Like Danny, I know you can talk on that. Now it seems like there's a lot of like called quarterback run, like they're running QB bash, like they'll run some QB counter stuff to where like basically he probably has a check at the line. It's a pass, or if we're not checking to the pass, like we're not really going to give it to the back. It's just go. And we're back, I think.
Roquan, talk about. Go ahead,
guys.
No worries.
No problem, man, at all.
Yeah, but Milroe, he's no Lamar Jackson by any means, but I have a great deal of respect for him. But I think it just goes back to making the team one-dimensional. So basically, when you stop the run, and that starts with the running back and also the quarterback-driven runs as well, the RPOs and things of that nature, and sending the ends on what we call it like Q charges, to where it's like any zone read, you just go run and hit the quarterback. In a sense, that'll definitely slow them down for sure. And when you think about it from that perspective, then you make it into a drop back passing game. And I don't think anyone wants that from a Bama perspective.
So one of the things I've always really appreciated about your game at linebacker is there really isn't an aspect of the game that I don't think you excel at, whether that's just the sideline to sideline, making the tackles, you can blitz in the pass rush, you can drop back into coverage. Of those 3 things, what's your favorite to do?
Honestly, man, my favorite thing to do is hit a cat in the mouth, man, and let them know that I did it. So that's what I like doing. Like more so, like imposing a will on another man, letting him know, like, hey, I just knocked the smack out of you, and I'm like gonna be here all day long. And I think like that because like it gives a mental too. So it's a mental perspective, and like where it's just more so I'm trying to own this individual for all 4 quarters, and if it goes into overtime, let's go, baby.
Question from Matthew Jordan in the chat asked, I'm going to tweak it a little bit because he said, how awesome was it to play in the Orange Bowl or the Rose Bowl against Oklahoma? I'll tweak it to how nervous were you, because that game, it was all Oklahoma early and it goes to overtime. That thing was wild. I was there. It was maybe one of the most entertaining games I've ever seen in person. What was it like for you?
Honestly, man, that was an amazing game, amazing weather out in Pasadena. And funny, I still give my teammate Mark Andrews, he always like, man, we should have won that game, dude. Like, he always say that, and I'm like, yeah, man, shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So, but, man, playing in that game, that atmosphere, how hostile it was, what I will always remember is how the dogs traveled out there, man. It was crazy. It was like a sea of red. Like, I'm looking up in the clouds and looking up in the crowd and just seeing all these dog fans from all over. That was pretty special. And then being able to just fight through adversity throughout that game, because as we know, Oklahoma jumped out on us big time. And like, with the high-powered offense, a lot of first-round, high NFL draft picks and whatnot. So knowing that, and we just stuck with it, man. We trusted in ourselves, and we knew at halftime when we got that onside kick, things were about to go in the direction we wanted them to go in.
You guys are watching the SEC's pregame watch party featuring Ravens linebacker and Georgia legend Roquan Smith, brought to you by Modelo, the mark of a fighter. Roquan, got to know, what's your best Kirby story?
My best Kirby story would probably be my best Kirby story. It would probably be App State, when we was playing App State and there was a running back. It was number 25. I think I was trying to do like a green dog blitz or something like that, to whereas the running back ended up like he acted like he was blocking, then got out. And then he like ripped me a new one. He was like, "What?" Because like App State wasn't doing it wasn't moving the ball or anything on us. What the up you doing? Like you one of the best players in the country. You one of the best players in the country, and you're not acting like it right now. You got man-to-man coverage on the running back. You cover him. If not, I can find someone else to do it. It was something along those lines, and man, it was pretty crazy. And I was like, man, and like, but like it's just like that. Those constant reminders from him that like just never allows you to get complacent, and always you got to bring it every single day.
We're almost up and out of time here, so I got to ask you. I need you to do me a favor. I'm a Bears fan. I miss you every single Sunday when I'm watching the Bears play. I'm happy you went to Baltimore. I'm happy you've got the contract, but I miss you. What I need you to do is I need you to tell me why Justin Fields and the Bears are actually going to get to the playoffs one day. Give me a reason to believe in this team.
That's pretty funny, but no, man, have a great deal of respect for the city of Chicago and all those guys that I played with up that way. But I would say, man, with Justin Fields, then you got Moore and Komet, those guys on the offensive side of the ball, and the defense is young. So I think, man, honestly, they keep going. Maybe continue to just keep getting better week in and week out. But I think obviously I don't know how the playoffs looking for them this year and whatnot. Not too well with eight. I'm not sure how many losses they have, but yeah, I think they got a chance, man. It's just they're young, and they just got to keep going with Fields. I trust Fields. I think he's a amazing talent. When they put more pieces around him and whatnot and protect him, I think he can do a lot of dangerous things. And then you just got to make sure the defense is ready to go as well, because I know the defense is very young as well.
Last one, we'll let you get out of here. Who's the one player, college or pro, that you just did not want to face? Quarterback, running back, any position that you just did not want to go up against?
Honestly, I don't think like that. Like, I'm more so like I'm at the bowling alley, line them all up. I'll knock them all down. I'm ready to go wherever the case may be. So I'm not into that picking and choosing business of, like I'd rather not go against this guy. Because, they say to be the best, you got to go through the best. So I want the best week in and week out. And then at the end of that, I can say, hey, I'm the best.
Roquan, really appreciate you joining us here, man. It's been a fun time, and love to have you back sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. And sorry about that earlier.
No worries.
about it.
Thank you, Roquan. Good luck the rest of the season.
Thank you, guys.
Just going to go out on a limb here. Like his answer. I love that answer.
Yes.
I would have given you a list of like 5 guys. Like, I don't want to go against Dion. I want to go against Ray Lewis. I don't want to go against Ron Tap. Maybe that's the difference in his career and mine. I'm just saying.
No doubt.
What a great dude.
All right, let's hit a break here real quick, and we'll come back and we'll talk about like some matchups that we're going to be watching today on CBS.
A game of honor. The Army-Navy game presented by USAA. Saturday, December 9th on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
Hey, we're back. You guys are watching the Cover 3 SEC Championship pregame watch party. We just had Roquan Smith on. That was a blast. Be sure to check it out on our YouTube channel later. I think we'll have some nice social clips cut up for you as well. But guys, I mean, this spread's dropping a little bit. We're looking at like a 5-point game. Should be a banger, man. Like this is. I just like this game because this is probably the two like best set of athletes. Not always the best teams, but like the best set of athletes in the country as somebody who watches all this recruiting stuff. I got to ask you guys, like, what are the matchups that you're really excited to see here today?
I mean, for me, it's always the line of scrimmage, like both these offensive lines versus these defensive lines, because I do think that while there are tremendous athletes at the skill positions on both sides, there's tremendous players in the secondary. I think this matchup, when you put these two teams together, that's where it's all going to be decided, is that battle at the line of scrimmage between these offensive lines and these defensive lines and the monsters down there. Who's getting the most push? Who's failing? Because that's where you're going to see, like, if Alabama is moving up and down the field, making plays, Jalen Milroe's getting yards with his legs and has time to hit the deep throws. If Carson Beck's able to pick the Alabama secondary apart with all his targets, it's going to be because they're getting time and the defensive line is losing. So that, to me, is the one thing I will be watching closer than anything. But you're right. Like, you look at both these teams, it's two NFL rosters nearly for the most part going against one another, which you can't really ask for a whole lot more.
You know what I love about today? We really haven't seen what we saw last night in the 4-team playoff era. We saw a huge upset. You know, like that just has not happened. And it's kind of wild because Washington beat them in the regular season. But do we get that Oklahoma State is a massive underdog. Iowa's a massive underdog. And none of us think like they can win the game outright, except you guys that took these Hail Marys on these money line sprinkles.
I mean, I would like to point out I'm the only one of our 4 hosts who did not take Oregon -9.5, and I'm the only one who took the Washington money line. I would just like to point that out.
You are right. But which one will be the big upset? You know, that's what I'm looking for. And can they pull it off? The other game, which I think gets a little more intrigue, is I was watching Liberty last night. Liberty runs the table. They've been dominant. And as soon as it was done, Jamie Chadwell started making the case for the New Year's Six. Let's go to the Fiesta Bowl. Let's go. Like, where are we going? The Tulane SMU game adds a little intrigue to that one because Tulane now has a team nipping on their heels. Like, if they struggle, if they lose, it's going to be interesting. And then I guess one thing I'm not looking forward to is what Jamie Chadwell did last night. Are the coaches politicking as soon as that game goes final? My goodness. And they have to. I don't blame them. They just have to, but we'll see how it goes.
Thank God the release show tomorrow is at noon. Like we'll be joining you guys live at 12:15. But like I don't want a week of politicking, right? Like 24 hours is plenty enough. They all have interesting cases, some a little more embarrassing than others, to come out there and make. Liberty just at times you got to give New Mexico State a ton of credit. Like I guarantee that Liberty staff's like those guys are an absolute pain to prep for, but it is nice to just be able to score every single time you go down the field, and that's not like a knock on New Mexico State's defense. They played well for about a month, but things changed. Like Penix didn't play well for about a month. And last night I was like, oh, we're going to get this Penix. Like I'm going to stay up and watch this whole game. Like this is going to be really good. You know, like that's different.
Yeah. It killed New Mexico State when Diego Pavia got knocked out and he was gone. Like, and they're playing a true freshman who's never played before. That's the other thing. I hope that doesn't happen today. We haven't been able to talk about this because when we did our locks pod, it was Tate Rodemaker. Can he do it? You know, what's he going to play like? And then that was a pretty big bombshell that Mike Norvell is saying it's a game time decision. It's him or Brock Glenn. Does it change your mind at all? But I'm sticking with it. The point spread only came down a point. You know, it's 1.5 now. Florida State's favored. What did it change you? Are you nervous more, less? What's your thoughts?
Not really. Because I don't think Tate Rodemaker is very good. I'm not trying to bash the guy. I don't think he's like a real high level player. I think Florida State has high level players at both receiver spots, running back. 5 or 6 defensive linemen who are going to be, draft picks, some of them pretty high, a secondary and linebacking core with like the letters SR next to their name at almost all the spots on the depth chart. Like I think it's more of a, can you avoid the catastrophic turnovers, and can you get the ball in your hands of the playmaker some, and the defense play like it's played for like 5 or 6 weeks in a row now. So no, it doesn't change my opinion. I will say, like, background on Brock Glenn, they beat out Ryan Day to get Brock Glenn late in the cycle, and the early returns on him were really good. Now, he broke his finger against Southern Miss, I think it was, and I think he was going to be the number 2 had he not broke his finger, which I think says a lot for a guy who didn't early enroll, right, as a true freshman. But they think he's got some real talent. So I think it's kind of baked into the number now. That move that we saw like Tuesday morning from 4.5 to 2.5, I think that was more like, hey, there's some chance that Tate doesn't play.
He's got tremendous hair too, doesn't he?
And a great mustache. Yeah.
I just love that it is tracking.
Like, Danny, did you hear this rumor that he checked into this called pass?
No.
When he went
on the one that he rifled and it got batted down?
Yeah.
Really?
Like, that's some moxie. I don't know if you really want that much moxie, but
it definitely takes some stones. That's it. I just love that it's tracking even closer now to the Ohio State Cardale Jones story. Because he was 3rd string, and it all of a sudden, now we'll see. I truly believe, and I said that I tweeted this out this morning, because the big argument is at Ford best, Ford deserving. If Florida State is not one of the best teams, if they're not one of the most deserving, they'll lose. And that'd be a good thing, because then they'll be eliminated. We don't have to debate it. It'll clear itself up. And if they win, I think they will show it, because I think in some cases it almost is more impressive if you're able to win without your starting quarterback. Like we were just talking about Liberty, New Mexico State. They lost their quarterback, couldn't overcome it. Like, that's what great teams do. Championship-worthy teams do, is overcome injuries when everybody else plays better. So we'll see if it can happen.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. So I'm a little bit curious about how Georgia runs the ball. Teams have kind of got misdirection working on Alabama some, and Georgia doesn't really do that super well. But like, Brock Bowers has been trending in the right direction. Obviously, Carson Beck's a really, really good passer for them. I'm interested to see like how does the run game work? Are they able to like hit some explosive shots on early downs? And how does Bama start? Because we don't really have a lot of good results with Bama starting fast this year, right? Like, they're down at the half.
Really?
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, Georgia, they crushed Kentucky. They kind of played with their food a little bit against Missouri, right?
South Carolina, you're talking about like South Carolina, Auburn early.
South Carolina, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Remember Kirby gave the halftime speech. We're going to come out, we're going to score 4 out of 6 drives, and we're going to dominate.
Gave him the Roquan speech against App State.
That's right.
What the hell are you doing?
It's that process-driven mindset, man. It's just every single play matters exact same. It's wild. How many wide open shots do you think Bama gets to create? Like, that's sort of one of the main things I'm watching, because a lot of these Milroe touchdowns have been wide open, and Georgia, to me, is the best cover team in the country. It's like, how many can Tommy Rees scheme up?
I think they'll get a couple. I mean, I have seen at times Georgia, like during the course of a game, I mean, any defense will, but even Georgia, they're going to lose track of a guy at some point, or they'll, their coverage will get figured out, and Alabama will call a play designed to, bust it open. I do think they'll get a couple chances. The key will be, can they cash them in? And that's the other thing too. Like, if you hit the deep ball, are you going to score on it, or are you going to get in the red zone? Because I don't want to be Alabama with Jalen Milroe against this Georgia defense in the red zone, because we know that they struggle in it. We also know that Georgia is very comfortable playing defense in the red zone. It's kind of, what they're built to really do well. So I think that's the thing. I think they hit the shots. It's just which shots do they hit, and do they cash them in?
I think too, it's going to be interesting to see if Jermaine Burton going against his former team. He's been the big play threat. Some of those balls I don't think are going to be wide open. They're going to be some 50. He's going to take some shots, and can he go over some of those guys, make that catch over them? That to me is where they've really flourished, is even when they're not open, taking some of those deep shots that are tightly contested. He's been a beast on them. So we'll see.
I also think in these championship games where you have basically a month to get ready for the next game and you can rest up. These guys who have serious wheels at quarterback, Milroe, Avion Smith from Miami, Ohio, like they don't really have a backup. So they have not been running Avion Smith much if we want to talk about like a little MAC title game. I think now's the time you press that go button, right? It's like, all right, bumps and bruises, we got a month to heal them up. Let's go. Like, I think back to Cam Newton, when they beat South Carolina, he had 14 carries. I would expect double-digit carries from Milroe in this game for sure.
To your point about that, man, I think that's what's got to be exciting if you're Washington, because they came limping into that game.
Yes.
They found a way to win. Now they get, a month to get healthy. That is huge for them. Florida State, another one. You're not getting Jordan Travis back. Every team. You can get Keon Coleman more healthy. Yeah, exactly. But every team has that to look forward to. You just got to get past this final test and then get there. I'm trying to find Milroe's rushing yards total. I see 41.5. If they hold them under 41.5, I think Georgia wins.
A blowout, I think, if they hold them under 41.5.
I would go over on that.
I think I would too. There's a big play in there.
You need one big run, a couple scrambles for positive yards on like third and longs that maybe convert or don't convert, and then just some sack avoidance, which is obviously how it gets you beat. I 41, I would go more.
Yeah.
Are you guys over?
I think he's going to have a big 20-yard at least at minimum, like just some point in the game. Then you're halfway there. You
have to.
Yeah.
Or heck, if he gets 3 like 10s on third and long, maybe one converts, 2 don't. But like you're sort of a permissive style defense in some ways, depending on field position, down and distance, then you can get there.
If you're Georgia, because overall I feel like defensively they are not the kind of team that brings extra guys and brings blitzes too often. When you're going against Milroe in this kind of situation, do you think Georgia might be a little more aggressive in that department today, or do you think they'd be even more conservative because of what they're worried about Jalen can do if they come in the pocket and he gets away?
If I'm Georgia, I think I'm coming after him because I do trust my coverage on the back end. And Georgia in the front 7 this year has not had great like gap discipline. It's actually been sort of especially compared to the last 2 years, a bit of a weakness. They have not maintained gaps. That's how Missouri got them, right? With some of the run game stuff, that's how Auburn got them. But they are pretty ferocious and they'll come after you. So I think you just lean into it, right? You got a bunch of very aggressive, athletic young guys up front, blitz them, and Georgia secondary is super experienced and really damn good. So trust those guys to clean it up on the back end, hopefully.
It's going to be a fun day to be a defensive back, boys.
Oh, man. And I want to see, like, Turner and Braswell ripping off the edge. Georgia got Amarius Mims back and not a moment too soon. Like, that's going to be a hell of a battle, whether it's Mims on Turner or Mims on Braswell.
Have we seen Beck have a game where he's been under a ton of duress? Like Missouri, he was a little uncomfortable. It wasn't really due to a lot of pressure.
The Auburn game, I don't think it was constant, but I feel like that was probably the most pressure he felt on a consistent basis. And it was a kind of a slow start for him. It took him a while to really get kind of comfortable in that game. So that's definitely something that you need to keep an eye on for this one. Yes.
It's almost the opposite question. We asked, will Georgia come after him? Do you think Bama comes after him, or do they not have to?
I think they should.
I don't think they do to start. I think that if they're struggling, then you will see the adjustment made where they are going to try to bring more pressure, whether it's from like the corner or from, linebackers in the A gaps.
Big game for Mike Bobo, guys. I mean, he's done a great job this year, but I mean, Monken always seemed to be able to flip to the right page. You've got to see, because Saban's going to have some things that'll fluster him. Guys, it's been a lot of fun, man. We'll have to do this again soon.
Yeah.
SEC Championship pregame watch party featuring Ravens linebacker and Georgia legend Roquan Smith, brought to you by Modelo, the mark of the fighter. Any parting thoughts?
I can't wait to watch this game. It's going to be a great Saturday.
Yep.
No doubt, man. Buckle up.